I'm excited for this juice feast, bro.
Guys, we're here.
Should be good, man. Should be good.
I've actually been kind of preparing for it, like for basically the whole month.
Yeah, you'll get a better experience that way.
What'd you say? You cut out.
You'll get a better experience that way.
Cool.
I hear a little echo on somebody, but other than that, guys, we're live. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'm still not up on Instagram. What happened? I requested it, but we'll figure it out. We'll get in there. But Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Welcome to another Wednesday night. The Good Life. We are rocking and rolling. We're excited to be with you again. Thank you for joining us and locking in on a Wednesday night so you can have these thoughtful and hear these thoughtful conversations around health, wealth, love, happiness, all the stuff that gets us to the good life. Episode 29, gentlemen.
Yeah.
We're there. We're making things happen. So
life's as old as me now.
Look at you. Look at that. We should have done something special for your year. This is your year. This is your episode year. It's your year episode, whatever we want to call it. But we got to figure it out. Next week is 30, so we might have to do something big for that too. 30 weeks, guys. 30 weeks. It's a long time. I'm proud of us. I think we did a lot of good things too. We've done a lot of good stuff. So it could be you're still muted on the live.
We're approaching a year.
There we go. We are approaching a year. So thanks for everyone that's been rocking with us. Thanks for all the listeners, everybody that's gotten valuable feedback or that has gotten value from what it is we're doing. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm glad you have gotten value. Continue to support us, send messages, likes, comments, subscribe to the channel, right? Follow us, send it to people, the whole nine, because we're just trying to impact as many people as we possibly can with our messages. And today we got a good one. So Kobi, lead us in, man. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, today's a real good one, and I think one that can, like most of our topics, kind of branch into a lot of little topics. So we'll see how well we stay, tied into one, or we'll do what we do best, which is merge and topics across, and also draw connections from one set of patterns to another. So today we're talking about the idea that experts are not gods. And you could really say that concept a number of ways, but really what we're getting at here is the idea of you being 100% responsible for your life. Okay. You are 100% responsible for your life. And you may have, a board of advisors, people that you go to for advice because they've seen cases like this, hundreds of times, whereas you're now running into something like that. And you can collect information from these board of advisors. Once you do that, though, you are the only person that's responsible for making a decision for yourself. And that comes, in the area of health, in the area of resource management, in the area of mindset. And I think, the reason why you are is there something higher than a CEO, man? You're not even a CEO, because the CEO, in my opinion, is kind of like a slave to the board.
They 1,000% are. People don't know that a lot of times, but in specifically publicly traded companies, because if you're a private company, CEO is the top it gets, right? Like you can't really go above that. Publicly traded companies, though, nonprofits also, right? Like the CEO, they work for the board. Like the board can fire the CEO. So there's that's not the top of the food chain. The board is the place to be.
So in sports terms, you are not Roger Goodell. You are whatever is above Roger Goodell's bosses, right? NFL commissioner for those sports inclined.
What's so funny is I actually just learned this. Funny you bring it up as sports analogies. This is totally left field, but like Roger Goodell's bosses are the owners of the team.
Yeah.
I just learned this like recent, like probably a year ago or so, right? Like that, like they have to collectively, like the owners of the NFL teams, they appoint the commissioner. Yeah. So if the commissioner doesn't listen to what the owners have to say, the commissioner's out of there, right? So technically the owners are the bosses. I just learned that like a year ago. I've been watching football my whole life, right? Never knew that.
It's one of those things that
either.
What do you say?
I never knew that either. That's such a cool little like checks and balance that the NFL has that I had absolutely no idea about. I'm sure it's completely fair and always with best intention.
Yeah. I was about to say nice little checks and balances, right?
Sure.
Like, oh, yeah. So it's a real interesting thing, but I think it speaks to the order of operation and the chain of command. Like you, in your life, maybe not at your job, maybe not at your, maybe not even in your marriage. God darn it, right? But in your life as an individual, right? You are the top of the top, and you hire and appoint board of advisors in all your areas of life, but they should not be the decision makers. So let's take health, which is start with there, and then we can dive into other areas. It's your responsibility to know. It's your your health is 100% your responsibility. It's not your doctor's responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility for a few reasons. One, there are things that you can do that nobody else can do for you. Like 80% of the things, right? Nobody can do for you, okay? You're the only one that can do them. You're the only one that's with you 100% of the time. Hopefully. Actually, we leave ourselves all the time, but a conversation for another day. You're the only one that has to live with yourself. You're the only one that is in this body, in this mind spirit complex, and you reap the rewards and you suffer the consequences. So at the end of the day, for you to be in alignment, for you to be happy, for you to be satisfied, for you to be fulfilled, it kind of goes hand in hand. You have the responsibility, but you also have the power and the control. And when those things kind of align, I think is when we're at our most fulfilled, whether we're crushing the scoreboard of life or not. But it's like, you know what? I'm in control. I made this decision. I'm happy with this decision, or I'm not happy with this decision, and I'm going to take a different approach. But as long as I'm in the driver's seat, I find that I'm more fulfilled, regardless of what the result is. Actually, the more I think about it, and that doesn't allow you to be a victim in life.
Ownership, common theme.
What was the common theme?
I'll leave that piece of that ownership.
Ownership. Oh yeah.
That's like every other.
So yeah.
This is the conversation every day, right? Like this is all the stuff that we should be talking about is ownership, and why people are choosing to not take ownership of their life in general. Right? I get into the entrepreneur mindset conversation a lot. The entrepreneur mindset says, if it is to be, it's up to me. If it is to be, it's up to me. It's going to happen. If something's going to happen in this area of my life, it is up to me. Being able to say that and believe that about every area of your life will unlock the key to you getting there, right? Like to getting to that next level, to getting to that place, to doing that thing. It's once you realize that if it is to be, it's up to me. I was having a call today with a friend of mine who's also now in coaching. I'm coaching her, but had a conversation, and she was telling me a little bit about like kind of what she's going through in her story. And I stopped in the middle of it, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna talk to you as a friend, right? Like blaming other people doesn't help the situation, just so you know, right? She was blaming a lot of the circumstance, or this person that, or this person set me up for that. And I had to just stop. Like, it was tough for me because I'm of the mindset, if it is to be, it's up to me. It's how I think. So when I hear other people saying it's that person's fault, it's that school's fault, it's this thing's fault, it's because that didn't happen, they're not taking ownership for anything that they've done, not done, right, or need to do in the situation. And that right there, by me stopping her and saying, hey, blaming people is not going to help. That all that stuff may be true. All those people may have it out for you, and they all may be idiots. However, if it is to be, it's up to me. We got to take ownership of the situation and start to move things forward. So yes, ownership, ladies and gentlemen, common theme of what we talk about here on The Good Life. We will continue to. Tonight will just be another night. Stu, jump in, man.
For sure. So you mentioned in there, the statement or question of why don't people take more responsibility over their own life? And I think that to the unknown mind, it's actually a lot easier. It's easier to blame everything else. There's no accountability. It's not my fault. It's their fault. It's not my fault politics are the way they are. It's not my fault, social parts of the country are going certain directions. somebody else's fault. And when you all of a sudden take yourself out of that responsibility, now you can convince yourself to walk away from the situation guilt-free. And whatever happens to your fate was not of your choosing. So blame the captain. The captain's not me. But when you actually begin to kind of take a look and peel back the layers of, you know, all the different information and marketing and media and programming and just, you know, public school education system, all of it, you begin to realize like, wow, all of these things actually make my life way more difficult. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't have to be comparing myself and my standards to what I see on social media and going after what somebody else has. I think it was Gary Vee. We're going to keep quoting him tonight, I guess. He had a slide today that he posted on Instagram about basically the same thing, like taking ownership and for your happiness. And if you're going to sit there on social media and compare your life to somebody else and, you know, wish that you were doing all the things that somebody else is doing, you're spending your entire time, and I think this may have been what you were talking about, that could be, you're spending your entire time living outside of your life, just comparing and wishing your life was like somebody else's. So when it comes to actually designing a lifestyle of your choosing where you're like a happy individual, you take ownership, you try and figure out what are the few things that I want to do with my life, and you focus on those, and you stop wishing you could do every single other activity on the planet and be the best in every category, or even be near the best in every category. Do you. And part of doing you is taking ownership and figuring out who you are and what you want to believe
in. That's big. That's big. Man, we could talk about this ownership thing forever. But like, honestly, the thing that I kind of keep coming back to in my mind as I'm hearing you guys talk is really diving in and understanding that victim mentality, like that the other side. People that want to get to the good life where you're taking ownership, and where we started this conversation was, right, like the experts are not God. So the experts that are around us in our life that we give our power to, right? We give all of our power to these people. And I'll tell you this, not even the experts on the good and bad side, like we give our power away to family members and people in relationship that we're in relationship with. We constantly are giving away, right, our power to people. But where we get to that victim mindset is when we start to say that those people or those things have more control over our life than we do, right? When we say that like those things have more of an impact in our life than what we can physically do or we're capable of doing for ourselves, that's where people are running into trouble. And I don't know that, how do we get people that are in that victim mentality? Because it's true, a lot of people have it, or the people that give away their power to, and I know we started talking about it in a positive light of, you know, giving it away to a doctor or giving it away to a financial advisor or something along those lines. But like, just in general, people that are like, they just give it away. They just give away the power. Like, what do we say to them? Like, what conversations do we need to start having for people to start taking back their power?
To me, the first thing that comes to mind is those individuals had to be inspired. You have someone, I think what's coming to mind here is enrollment from Landmark. Like, you have to like genuinely approach that person like, look, I see you. I see the potential in you. I know you want more for yourself. The only way you're actually going to achieve more for yourself is if you actually take responsibility for what's going on around you. Stop blaming your boss. Stop blaming your wife. Fastest way out of any relationship is to blame your partner for what's happening. So, yeah, it does come back to ownership. Here we are again. But I do think there's some type of, beyond just the rationale and the logical approach of stop blaming other people, especially if it's that same baseline that we talked about in the pregame. Like, if you're always blaming people, you're never going to really understand how blaming people is not helping you get anywhere. You just have to trust the fact that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. Please, sir, listen to me. I see that you could be a leader in this situation. I see that you could take charge of this. So I think it's some type of like inspiring enrollment that helps somebody actually begin to just take a step of faith and try something different, like not blaming somebody.
It's a good start.
I think you know, Chris, I think specifically you a little earlier hit on the duality of the situation, because it's the blaming others, not taking a 100% ownership or being 100% responsible. But so it's kind of like, everything's happening to me. But the duality of that is that you also don't claim any power. Like, to put it another way, there's I don't claim any blame, but there's also I don't claim any power or agency over my life, right? So I think, distinguishing those two, to me, I think is important in answering specifically your question, which I think the answer would be like how do we start to really interrupt this dominant narrative or question this paradigm, which to me is bringing, again, awareness, right? In that, yes, in one side you get to relinquish or not take responsibility for any sort of blame. It's not my fault, right? You guys see, boss man over there, he's in charge or she's in charge. But that also means that then you do not have any power, right? With great power comes great responsibility, whatever he said. Those two things are actually one and in the same, right? They're one and in the same. They're two sides of the same coin. So if you have an individual's, and this is something I had to realize for myself, was that, I was in a period of consistently seeing how things were structured in such a way that wasn't beneficial to somebody in my position, in my mind-body complex, if you will, and in a lot of ways, some obvious, some not. But then I also realized that if I give too much power, too much credit, too much of a nod, right, in that direction, I'm also indubitably saying that I have no power to influence the situation. The power does not lie with me to influence the situation. So I think, to me, that duality is scary, because one side of it, yes, you get a relief, but the other side means that you're helpless. You're just floating, and anything moves you one way or the other. And so I think pick the side that either scares you the most, inspires you the most, whichever one works, because both could be just as depending on where you're situated, could be just as powerful to acknowledge. So I think awareness, but also realizing just duality in the situation. If you want all of these things in your life, how can you do them if you don't have any power, any agency in your life? You're not the source of anything.
I mean, I think that this is hitting the nail on the head, right? This is really diving in and saying, like, do you believe you have power over your own life? I talk a lot about like hope in the future. I talk a lot about that from a financial standpoint, but just also, again, entrepreneurship in general, people in general, just to be honest, guys, like, most a better future, right? Like, hope that like there is better out there for them. People really struggle with this side of it. And part of it goes back to what you just said, Kobi, is that like people don't have hope because they don't feel like they have power over their situation. They don't feel like they have power to control what 10 years looks like. They really think they're just going to end up somewhere, and it's probably because of my life experiences, it's going to end up worse, right? It's going to end up not the way I want to because I've been disappointed so many times, and we live out of our experiences. I heard Les Brown say this yesterday on the Breakfast Club. He said people need to stop living in their experiences and live out of their imagination, right? 'Cause most people live out of their experiences, and that's what creates these limiting beliefs or those things like, oh,
that's a bar, dude.
That is a bar. When I heard it, this is like the third time I've regurgitated it in 24 hours. So that's how I know it's a bar, right? Like, but absolutely, right? Like, people got to stop living out of their experiences because that's what we do. Do I see? What do I want? What can I create? It goes back to this whole, like, I need to take ownership of this. I need to know that, like, if I do dream that, if my brain does conceive that, that I have the ability to go do that thing or go get that thing or go be that person. And most people struggle with that ownership. You said another word, Kobi, and I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on it. It goes hand in hand, but you use that word responsibility. I think people are just running from responsibility. Is responsibility a big thing that you think is causing people to not take ownership? You think people really just don't want the responsibility of ownership?
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think responsibility is ownership, and ownership is responsibility. I think it's the same. I think we're describing the same concept when we talk about both of those things, because you own it, you are responsible for it, right? And it's just slightly the same way. If you're responsible for, in my opinion, you also have ownership in.
True.
All right. So I think it's the duality, recognizing duality, because one comes to mind quicker than the other. So responsibility, running away from responsibility. But responsibility also means that you are responsible. Like, you are the person that gets to decide. You are the person that gets to choose what happens in this situation. And so, we use a different word, ownership, and that reflects more of that connotation. But to me, I think you can't have one without the other, which kind of goes to the point a little earlier in that. Let's not look at it all like it's like, oh, darn, it's what a responsibility, right? Oh, shoot, right? You would say a lot of the best things in life come with that duality, right? Absolutely. Children, marriage, whatever, job, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to put in there, okay, right? But they come with that duality of like, okay, I'm responsible for, I have an interest in, I benefit from. Like they say, it's a give and take both ways, right? If I don't take care of this goose, that lays the golden egg, it's gonna die. But if I never lay any golden eggs, what's the benefit, right? So right. I think it's kind of like that duality is really, really important, because it's the hot and the cold. It's what allows you to get the right temperature at some point in time.
Makes sense.
Touching on this theme of responsibility, I really like the way you put that. There's not, like, looking back, there's not a single thing in my life that I took responsibility for that I regret. And all the things in my life that I look back on where I wasn't really taking responsibility, I wasn't getting any fulfillment from it. Now, that's not to say you have to find fulfillment in every single thing you do. I think some people strive to live their life that way. I definitely have a variety of clients that are somewhere on that spectrum. But yeah, like you said it best: kids, marriage, career path, like whatever the case may be. If you take responsibility for it, you're going to get something out of it. You're either going to learn, or you're going to grow, or you're going to deal with different challenges. You're going to have to face adversity. But shedding all your responsibilities, life becomes dry really quickly. And I know this because I've done it before. So from personal experience, like, responsibility, like, comes like this great self-esteem and confidence and power, knowing that, especially, we're all happen to be men in this group here, like taking care of a family, providing for them. Not to say that it only has to be the guy, but, we want to take care of our partner. We want to take care of our future kids or present kids, and all that stuff involves responsibility and growth. So to me, that's the good life right there.
Huge, man. Huge. I agree 1,000%. I think that, right. Again, we talked about awareness, but just us being aware and people becoming aware that these are the things that you have to go through in order to get to a good life. Like, I think that's, again, why we do the show. So go ahead.
I like to transition here. Oh, Stu, were you got?
No. I think you meant to say.
Oh, I was going to say, I like to transition a little bit to, I think this is pretty high level. I'd like to bring it down a little lower and look at a little bit more of the details. I think when we talk about in the area of health, let's get a little bit more granular here. When we talk about being responsible, 100% responsible, I think it's, not relinquishing completely, like letting go of, like, you know, Jesus hold the wheel type of situation, right? Because that's what most of us are doing when it comes to our health. Oh, I don't feel right, so I'm gonna go to the doctors. Well, yeah, you don't just walk into the doctor's office and walk out. You know, like we expect that to be the case because we've experienced something in a smaller quantity like that. So we just think that's kind of like the case. I don't think you need to like go read medical books, and it's tough because this is exactly why we're in the bind that we're in. Right? This is exactly why we're in the bind that we're in. It's great for the American Medical Association for us as a society to essentially view their members as like the authorities on what it means to be sick, ill, healthy, whole, any of that stuff, right? To the point that we as individuals are now so disconnected that we just basically, we don't even look to ourselves for information about how we're feeling anymore. We look to the experts. And let me use another example here. It's like driving down a highway and you no longer use your speedometer, if you will. You basically look at how many, like, you listen to the radio for the person on the radio to tell you how fast you're going when you have the speedometer right there. I'm going to think of a better example, but what I'm saying here is that we literally just ignore ourselves. Like we completely severed this connection to the body, so much so that the American Medical Association, really anybody at this point that has a white coat, can tell us pretty much anything and back it up with some peer-reviewed research and pretty much say anything they want to say. This has been done over and over and over again. Now, whether or not you believe it's with negative intent or not, I argue is quite irrelevant because it's the same
result.
It's the same result. It's the same exact result, right? So it's our responsibility to have some level of awareness when it comes to what is health and what is healthy and what is not, because it's not looking good moving forward. Like, it's really not looking good from when we consider where does most of this information come from in the first place. If not from our parents, then it's from sources that are invested in not healing us, because healing, according to their own resources, is not a sustainable model for their businesses. So we're relying on these individuals to do something that is inherently not beneficial to their way of living and producing for their family and taking care of their family. So it doesn't make any sense, right? And so they've convinced us to believe that, hey, if you haven't gone to 45 years of medical school and you haven't read all of these books, right, and done all of these things, then you actually can't even trust your own body. It's absurd. It's completely absurd. Like what because they're literally disrupting the entire natural law, like the entire thing. Don't listen. Oh, okay, you feel this way? That's good. Don't listen to yourself. This is actually how things are going. Let me tell you how things are going. I didn't ask you anything. I didn't observe you. I didn't look at any other areas of your life. I didn't look at anything else going on. You just answered 5 questions, and now I know without a shadow of a doubt that this is what we need to do. And by the way, we're not going to allow the body to do what it's designed to do. We're literally just going to cut the signal, give you some fake way to plug the hole in the boat, and then, you know, yes, you're going to come back, but we got you for life.
Crazy. We can stick on the medical side because it's so true. I hope this is resonating with people, because this is what happens. Right? I was having a conversation with one of my buddies, and I was telling him because he had some people in his family that have fallen into the Western medicine trap, right? Like, because once they get you hooked, like, you're in, right? You're just it's gonna be pill after pill after pill to counteract that pill, and then before you know it, you're 89 with a pill box, right? Those things are real. So I was talking to my buddy about it and how he had seen his family kind of go through some of that stuff. And I was telling him, he went to the doctor. He's a little bit overweight. And so he went to the doctor and they said like some of his levels were a little high. But then like before he even got that report back, he started going on a full vegan diet, right? Full vegan lifestyle, just changing his eating habits, walking, just doing some other things. Goes back to the doctor and the doctor was reading off the report, not knowing that he had changed his lifestyle and dropped some weight and was feeling better and all that stuff. And literally didn't ask him any questions and just gave him like a handful of medication to deal with lowering whatever that number was that he had taken the test for like 3 weeks ago or a month ago or something like that. And what you said could be about like just no diagnosis outside of answering like 2 or 3 questions, then all of a sudden gives us a bunch of stuff for him to put into his body to ingest. And it's like, and luckily him and I had been having some good conversations. So I was telling him like, you know, you don't want to go into that Western medicine side of things without listening to your body and understanding what you're putting into it. And from that doctor's appointment, it all made sense to him. He was like, damn, he didn't ask me anything about my diet or any of my exercise or anything that I was doing. He just let me walk out with this bag full of like medication. Half of it's like trial things that were sitting in the lobby. And he was like, this really doesn't make sense, Chris. Like it was like this light bulb came off for him because he experienced it. And I'm like, that's it. And that's what happens to so many people when we talk about just giving their power away. Most people would walk into that doctor. I was like, something's wrong with me. I don't really know. Or they give me a bad report. Here, take all of these. Okay. Like, okay, I guess. Right? Like that's just what we do. We just take it. And it's like, but what is that doing for your body? Do you understand? Do they know? Do they know what that's doing? What's their incentive for giving you that? Like again, this is the process that we have to go back through to get to this place of saying, I know my body. I know my body. Mr. Doctor, right? You are an advisor. Like I understand you did go to school for this. So I will listen to what you're saying and I will then figure out if that makes sense, what you're saying, and listening to my body to understand if I should actually do that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be the one to make that decision. Not you. You can give me the advice, you can tell me, but I'm going to make the decision. And especially with our health, too many people just give that over to them, to the doctors, and they don't actually. And again, like you said, it's our mind, right? Like it's them controlling and saying that, like, you know, we don't know best. We don't know best. They know best. The teacher knows best, right? The doctor knows best. We don't know best. But that's a bunch of bull, right? Like you take ownership for your life, you do know best. You might not have all of the specialized knowledge, but you can make the best decision for you and your family moving forward. Like that's always going to be it. And I'm interested, I know, you know, we got a little bit of time, I'm interested to dive into that personal, you know, board of directors or that personal, right, board, because I don't think most people do that. I know we touched on it on another episode, but like, I don't think most people do that. I don't think most people have like 1, 2, maybe 3, but really 1 or 2 designated people in each area of their life that they respect, that they trust, and that they will take information from to help them get better in that area of their life. I don't think many people have that. And I think that's an important thing. I don't have it in every area of my life, right? I'm still looking for it. I'm still looking for the marriage, right? The marriage mentors, like, right? Like I've had a few come through, but they're not there. So like we should have these people to start allowing us to take in the information so we can make the most informed decision for ourselves.
Amen to that. You know, I think I want to play a little devil's advocate for a moment because, you know, I know a lot of people in that work in Western medicine, and I think we can all agree that there are certain situations where there may be something Western medicine can do to alleviate something with a sense of urgency. You know, you're having a heart attack in the moment. Changing your diet is not immediately going to keep you alive through that heart attack. I've had somebody in my family recently have to go in because they got bit by a tick, and it completely, like, just the natural virus, bloodborne virus from that tick was all up in their immune system. And perhaps if their diet had been better, which I talk with that person frequently, hope you're watching, you know, perhaps they would have been less compromised to that situation. But in the moment, they needed to go in and get just completely cleared out. And so I say all that because, in my opinion, I don't think you can really write off, and I know you guys aren't necessarily doing that here, you can't write off anything in total. Everything has different benefits, or else nobody would really believe it enough to even have it be that large anyways. But if you begin to treat them, like you're saying, Chris, as an advisor and not this godlike expert that tells no wrong, then you all of a sudden can go into the doctor and know, man, chances are pretty good that he's either going to want to cut me open or he's either going to give me a pill. But if I know, if I want to go to a different route and change what I consume on a regular basis, I know that I can go over to Kobi. I know that there's a good chance that he might talk about raw fruits and vegetables and totally cleaning me out like that. And I know what to expect from him. And if you begin to understand how these people think and where to follow the money, shout out, if you begin to do all these things and understand the motivations and what they're usually likely to do, you can position them as an advisor, not just this blind trust. You can go in there knowing that the pills are going to be accessible, just like your buddy did. Or I guess he found out the hard way. And all of a sudden walk away and realize there's another way. But if he hadn't tried to take ownership in between the first appointment and the second one and the responsibility to take care of his shit, then maybe he would have accepted those pills.
Yeah. I think that's it's very true. And I want to clarify this point because I think it goes to like the understanding of, or the educational piece, right? If we're saying, hey, you are 100% responsible for your health, that means that you can't be negligent. So you have to now seek out throughout your life ways of elevating your knowledge, right? So if we couldn't look everything up, if we could just do it, what did people have to do back in the day? Well, you had somebody in the family that dedicated a lot of time to figuring out this stuff and would share that knowledge, and you also to yourself had a certain level of knowledge when it came to health. Like, you know, hey, listen, if this thing bites me, I can go take this plant, mush it out and put it on the bite, and it's going to stop the venom going. So I say that because now we move into the educational piece of it. And, you know, maybe I'll play angel's advocate here because I think it's really interesting that you say that. Because, yes, Western medicine has developed some wartime techniques that are critical to saving life. Key term, wartime techniques, right? And I say that to say, once you start looking deep, you realize, one, how did that direction develop? Because humanity as a whole was already sick. And when I say by that is mental sickness, in that in times where things are good, you don't think to go put a piece of metal through your fellow human. You don't think to do that if you're not ill in the head, right? To me, that's illness. Okay, that is dis-ease. Okay, not to me. In fact, it is, but we've just separated it into little categories over time, right? But that is illness. That is mental dis-ease, right? Okay, so let's put that aside. That's one layer of like the what I'm saying here. Another layer of it is that like you got to consider what is the source of all Western medicine. There is a source that came before. Then we took little bits and pieces of it, concentrated it into pills and little other ailments, or manipulated it in certain other ways and said, hey, listen, this works way better. Let me show you that it works way better. But see, the truth of the matter is that the source was always there. The source was always there. Did we give the source or and I resist calling it Eastern and Western for this distinction because it kind of like muddles the cross there, because I think a lot of things that's done in the West is actually East, but it was brought here and rebranded as well, right? So a lot of it, the stuff that you would say these people are doing, they were already doing. They were already doing, but you bring it over here and you rebrand it and you say, oh, this is not Vivilliers. This is Vivilliers. Bruh, it's the same thing. You just put a freaking accent on it. Okay, it's the same damn thing. Okay, so I want to push back on that too, because that's a level of understanding that the thing that we're being sold as completely brand new, right? What we're being sold is like, this is the scientific way to do it. This is the scientific research way to do it, bruh. It's just because they didn't say that. That's all. They just didn't brand it that way, right? So I think it's understanding that in and of itself upholds the structure. It's just like an inherent belief that it's newer, it's more polished, it's more scientific, it's more organized, it's better. You know, that's just not true. And if we hadn't systematically cut off the development of natural medicine, I believe the natural medicine would be just where synthetic chemical medicine is now. If we had supported it with same billions of dollars, same trillions of dollars, same energy, same level of respect, same level of like adherence, and not systematically, literally tell and train us all to believe that it is inferior in certain ways. That's just not the case. Now, I'm not saying that one is. What I am saying is that the branding that has been put on it is extremely detrimental, because it actually leads to us living in a less healthy world, and in a world where it doesn't even. We're not even given the right solutions in a lot of cases. We're given solutions that prolong the situation so that a few people can make money. You know, so if you give me like the total truth, health, freedom, if you give me that, I actually don't think we'll necessarily have a East and a West. I don't think we would have a this and a that. I think we would have a this is what works. You see what I'm saying? So by pushing the ideology of like, oh, this is Westerners good for certain, it's freaking bullshit. Like Western couldn't have even existed if East didn't exist. And again, this is all Brandon, right? Like it couldn't. They literally had to have this set of knowledge be tested for 5,000 plus years for Rockefeller medicine to even take place. However, if you reverse it, that's not necessarily true. If you reverse and go, quote unquote, west to east, that's not true at all. So, you know, obviously there's benefits, but I think we continue to dig ourselves a hole in the direction that makes that the only solution. And I don't think that's by natural design.
Makes sense. Stu, you want to, because that was kind of piggybacking on what you had talked about. I don't know if you had anything to say to that.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of it. At the end of the day, we live in a society where there's shit that goes wrong, and sometimes we need an urgent, immediate fix, and we're conditioned into believing that there's one primary source for that, and it's a hospital. But if we weren't consuming the bullshit that we're consuming all the time, probably have a hell of a lot less heart disease, which still somehow goes unmentioned in comparison to COVID numbers. Probably should have said that one.
God,
we're gone.
We're done.
We're going blackout in 3, 2, 1. But yeah, I mean, no, I mean, I don't disagree with all of it. I think we all have different ways of phrasing it, and at the end of the day, like I was having a conversation with an MD talking about how so many of the chemicals and how they're brought about literally come from things as simple as like ginger. They take out this one piece of ginger and then they all of a sudden make it this whole thing when you could just go get the ginger, put it in your tea. And instead you've got ginger with chemicals in your stomach. So it's just you're right. It does come down to branding and marketing and propaganda and where's the money. And the simple fact of the matter is you can't profit off of people trying to get their diseases cured if they're healthy enough to not get diseases. It's really sad to say that.
That's it.
But it is what it is.
That's it. Unfortunately, that's it. Yeah. That's it. And the thing that to me is really sad of that about that is that collectively we're worse off. Collectively we're worse off. That's it. There's a tax on us as a society. If you want to put it in economics terms, there's a tax on us as society, and that dead weight goes to a greedy few. Right. That's really kind of what I see happening. And because if we want to put emphasis on having high level of technology for everybody on this earth, we as a whole, we would be like, shoot, we'd be flying. Like, I think we would be there. But the lack of flow of information, the lack of flow of freedom, the lack of flow of, you know, of true research not being hidden for financial gain and all this stuff that's going on, of true information is not being freely shared. I think as a society, we're worse off. So to get back to our point for today, in that it's like, it's our responsibility to educate ourselves. And then, listen, if you don't have the time, the energy or whatnot to put into looking all this stuff up and doing all this self-study like our ancestors did for a long time, right? They worked the fields for 4-6 hours, and then they studied, whether it's with a book or with like actually sitting down to meditate with themselves to get divine wisdom, which I think is another form of study as well. If you're not going to do that, then find somebody's. Then, you know, this is where we run back into the same issue. You run into all these false prophets.
You said false prophet? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great way to put it, bro. Yeah, and that's why I think this whole thing comes down to like, people, you guys don't have to blindly trust us. Like just like anything else we're talking about, like you can check out our testimonials. You can actually just get on a phone call with us. We are people. Like there's tons of different things you can do. You don't blindly trust anybody. That's kind of what we're getting at here. None of us are gods. None of us are perfect. Every single one of us has had wins and losses in health, wealth, and mental side. And we've just chosen to pursue it on our own and research the hell out of it and try different types of things. Anybody that knows me knows that I've tried just about anything on this planet that I can, like trial and error. So we've taken the time so you guys can find access to what works faster with a guide. That's it.
Yeah. I want to get back to real quick that personal board of directors, because the board of advisors, because I think it's important. Because as I, again, hear us talking about this, I actually give people the other message sometimes too. Deja vu. I just had deja vu. It's crazy. Anyway, I often give people the other message a lot of times, which in the financial space says, don't try to do it all yourself. Get a coach. Get somebody to walk you through it, right?
But that's not opposite, though.
That's not opposite. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want to get there faster, you hit up a resource.
Yeah. I don't think that's opposite at all, because that fits perfectly into the idea of building the team, and you being like, you know, you being the person that makes the final call.
Right. And that's what we agree on. And so I often hear it in the language sometimes, or somebody might pick it up from us saying like, you can do this yourself, right? Like you can go get the information yourself. You can, and I don't want that to be misconstrued with, you know, doing everything for yourself, right? Getting the information, going all the way down. All right, so you don't want to listen to a doctor now because we've convinced you, or whatever the case.
Sure.
Now you're going to be like, well, I can research it. They said I can learn it all myself. True, but like there is still a place for the expert, for the person that can give you the guidance or can see things or see your blind spots or things that you just might not know. So I just wanted to throw that in there because it's important too on the other side, that building that board of advisors, that like you still have 1 or 2 or 3 experts in your corner that you do seek. Now they might not get the last say, right? To clarify, right? They're not the end all be all. You're not giving all of your power to them, but you do have them in your corner to advise, to bounce ideas, to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, or this is how I'm thinking about it, and let them guide you. And then you go back and make that decision. Versus in the money side specifically, I see a lot of people that just try to go get the information themselves because they know the financial information is readily available. They know that, right, it's out there. They can ask people about it and they feel like they understand it. But in our space, like, if you haven't really had that education, if you haven't really learned the foundation, we talked about that in the pregame foundation, right? It's actually hard to then figure out your specific plan of how to build to where you want to be. So I do just want to throw that in, and I'm glad that, you know, this might be clarifying, but again, we're probably saying the same thing. I just want people to know that, like, there is still room for the expert in your corner, on your board of advisors, on your board of directors. You don't have to do it all by yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's a terrible idea to try to do it all by yourself. Yeah, because that completely defeats the purpose of having a team, and defeating the purpose of building a board of advisors. But what you do need is enough knowledge to pick your advisors, right? So you need to know enough. You need to have seen enough to then trust your gut and be like, okay, all right, I can trust this person's research. I can trust this person's, you know, what they're saying agrees with my spirit and my gut. What they're saying, like, okay, all right, I see what you're saying. You can teach me something that I don't have the time to go seek out, the desire, the expertise, or I don't really care, right? Or I don't even want to care. So I think it's pretty critical to notice that duality. You have and must have the final say. Otherwise, you're asleep at the wheel. But you can't drive, look up directions, feed the baby in the back, you know, go ahead and wave hi to somebody going by, because you're going to get pulled over, right? That's why you have a co-pilot, you know. I don't know what else you would have in the car.
Somebody had snacks from back.
Somebody had his snacks, a nanny in the back with snacks, you know. Well, but it's critical for you to have that base level information, because what's happening is people are either going, yo, let me save $5 and do it all myself, like the little nitty gritties too, or they're going, oh, I don't need to think anymore. I got X on it. Nah, man, that's how people get money stolen. That's how you end up doing, you know, a diet that's not great for you. That's why you end up, you know, sipping on some substances in Mexico and dying or something. You know what I mean? Like, you end up in tough situations. You know, no, I have not been in that.
I was about to ask, like, do you have a story behind that, Kobi? Should we talk about drinking things in Mexico?
Negative. Although, you know, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. So, guys, kind of as we wrap up tonight's episode, man, again, common themes to getting to the good life. Ownership, taking ownership of your life, taking ownership of every part of your life, knowing that life is happening for you, not to you. No victims, no giving away our power to to other people, and or not having that power or being able to use that power for ourselves. Understanding that creating, you know, a board of advisors or people that can advise us, point us in the right direction, educate us, get us down that path is going to be incredibly important. You shouldn't do it all by yourself. Obviously, if you're thinking those things, you got to be more open-minded. Stu, we're supposed to talk open-minded, closed-minded, right? But we've been
hinting at it.
Yeah. So, you know, being more open-minded, right? And understanding the information that you're able to get. And then knowing that it is up to you, right? If it is to be, it's up to me. So give some final words, guys. Just kind of go around and, you know, any last messages that you want people to take from tonight.
Well, let me segue from the open-minded piece. So I think, you know, we talked about the repetitive themes of ownership. Thank you for bringing that up again. I think the other theme that we're really hinting at here is, guys, just ask why. Like, just question things. like approach things with an open mind. Like there's so many people out there that have the potential to take advantage of your blind trust. Try things out. You have nothing to lose by just trial and error. It is the simplest way. It's like the most common thing I say as part of my practice. Like, what have you tried so far? What can we build on from your past experiences? Like, just question things. And the only way to do that is to keep an open mind and not just blindly trust authoritative figures, because that's what they want you to do.
So true. So true. Kobi, want to wrap us up, Kobi? What's up, man?
Oh, man, listen, I think he's giving that pregnant pause right there. Let's go, bro. Let's go. Deliver. Oh, man. Listen, what I want to end on is, you know, we talk about there, in my opinion, man, listen, there are very few kind of areas to life and then truths to life, like ways to do things to get us result. I always say this, you know, 20% of the things that we do on a consistent basis gets us 80% of the results. And we each, you know, we struggle on our way there. Like some areas may come a little easier for you than others, right? But you can build on top of that by learning from the areas that come easily to you. For me, that's what the area of like specifically training is for me. I need that in my life to just maintain a cadence. I realize that if I can keep hold of like one or two things that like I can always listen, I can always come back to it. Was it the best training session ever? No, but I know I can always come back, and within 2-3 days I'm back. Like I'm floating. I'm moving forward. So I would advise you to do that. Start where things come easy. Practice the same principles because you can apply them elsewhere in your life. And then I'll say this as well. A lot of the stuff we talk about come down to doing a couple things over again and over again and over again. So what I'll be curious is, you know, for the audience here is like, would you be interested in doing some sort of like New Year thing, some sort of like kickoff thing, something of like bettering yourself and putting together just a small set of actions that you can take, right? Where we go into detail of like, why do you do this every day? How do you do this? And what would you be interested in something like that? And if so, like drop some ideas, some comments, some questions. You know, just shoot, we might refine this question in a little bit, but I'll be curious to know, what do you do? Do you start off the new year just like, nah, yeah, it kind of is what it is? Do you go out and party? Like, do you go out and, you know, are you just home with family? Do you go to church? A lot of my African brothers and sisters say, amen. Right? What do you do? Like, how do you bring it in? And, you know, are you looking at this idea of cycles of day, week, month, quarters, years, right? How do you think about that stuff? So I would love to know that just for my curiosity.
I think it would help all of us. So we'd love to hear from you. And plus, we want to get the engagement up, guys. Like we want to talk to you. We want you to message us. We want you to jump in. If you're getting value from this, whether you're watching us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, it doesn't matter. If you're getting value from it, right? Hit the thumbs up, share it, drop a question, drop a comment, say great stuff, right? Anything that lets us know that you're getting the information. Because again, we come to do this so we can give you value, so that you can understand these things around health, wealth, mindset, relationships, spirituality, all of it, right? Like how this all works for you to get to the life that you want to design for yourself. And we want to continue to deliver for you. So yeah, are there some things that you do specifically to come into the new year? We'd love to hear it. You might be planning something, not might, we are planning something, right? To make sure, and we want to know like, hey, what would give you the most value? Right? What would give you the most value? How would you think about it going into a new year, adding some of these things in to help you get to the good life? So again, we're here, guys. Another week sharing it with all the people that are jumping on. Again, thanks so much for our IG live crew and everybody that jumps on. Again, we're doing the pregame before the hour before. So that's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. That's the pregame only on Instagram. And then we're starting the show every Wednesday 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Come back. Next week is episode 30. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about, but I know it's going to be a good one. So that's it, guys. Another good one, right?
Amen. Next one's Big 3-0.
Next one's the Big 3-0, guys. We appreciate everyone joining us. Until next week, we're signing off for the good life. Take care. Enjoy your night.